There we go.
Yeah. All right. So it's really been a while for all of us here, as you can see, or a bit on the rusty end on how to actually create a functioning discussion and actual video, but we're working on it. And it's nice to be back again. Say hi, my not real companions right now.
Yeah,
Hello.
hi.
As I said before the year ended in our last video, we wanted to create more content throughout the year. And so, what we're doing now is a bit of an experiment where what I want to do in this new series, which it's a working title for it to be called PsyReacts, but true to the name, we are going to react to a certain, how you'd say, a certain situation or a certain happening that happened in the world, and we just want to give our brief thoughts on it together in a not a very organized discussion in the sense where it's scripted videos like in all our other created video formats already presented, like PsyPointers and PsyPop. But it's more so just an unregulated, raw discussion on our personal thoughts on these situations and how we can apply psychology to these discussions and to give out and spread news on these important discussions. And today happened a little bit way back last month before we actually went on break, but it's something that I really want to talk about. And recently, it sort of came to a conclusion with the actual release of Spider-Man No Way Home. I want to talk about how that correlated with the Metro Manila Film Festival of 2021.
Yeah.
And to either of you, what do you guys basically know about what happened?
Basic.
Well, I'm probably the least informed on this, so I'll just say this in the most simplest and general of terms. From what I understand, there was a massive backlash. Well, there are people complaining that the Philippines would have to see No Way Home far later than the rest of the world to make space for the Metro Manila Film Festival.
And there was like also a low turnout in general towards the film festival. There were like barely people there.
Yeah, and that was mostly the problem, and it's because of that low turnout. It sparked this huge debate on the quality of Filipino films in general, and should we as people really invest in these just to support local? Is this a problem with the Filipino film in general, or is this something that's our fault for not wanting to support local, for us being more westernized and preferring Western media over Philippine media? Are we the ones at fault, or is there anyone particularly at fault?
I mean, to begin with, we can't blame it entirely on No Way Home, and well, also people's perspectives on film. Remember that we're in the Philippines, and this all coincided with the massive surge in Omicron, so we could also bring that up.
The
Yes.
Like,
Omicron thing, however, like arrived after uh the film festival.
not necessarily, because the festival starts on Christmas Day,
Mhm.
and then the festival ends on the 7th, which is a few days ago, which means Omicron arrived in the middle of it.
Or Omicron was already there. We just didn't really realize it till it started
Yeah,
spreading.
Yeah.
the massive surge recording happened in the middle of it, and it was already present beforehand. So we also have to keep in mind that while we do talk about the individuals and also people's preferences when it comes to film and all that and the quality of film, generally the turnout will also be more than likely smaller no matter what because of Omicron.
Yeah, which is a shame, but that does really bring the interesting point because I actually sent a bunch of articles to like our group chat here in PsyPoints before, and there you'll see images of the turnouts for both the Manila Film Festival itself, the amount of people who were there itself, like they're lining up to actually watch the show, versus the amount of people lining up to watch the show for Spider-Man No Way Home, which released a month later. And also, interestingly enough, when Omicron right now, at least at the time of this recording, is at its absolute worst here in the Philippines, growing exponentially. And the turnout in comparison, when Omicron was less considered a threat in the Philippines, that you'll barely see lines for it in comparison to when you then see Spider-Man No Way Home, where we're at the peak of the pandemic, but there's lines and lines of people going to watch the film. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, the picture in the Facebook post reminds me like whenever like I go into malls, like even during the Christmas break, there's like so many people, despite the fact pandemic.
So, like, yes, you can argue that the pandemic is a big factor in it. But then you see what people are willing to sacrifice for a Western film, a film that's not made by local, a film that people have been expecting, yes, but you see what they're willing to sacrifice for Marvel, for Spider-Man, in comparison to critically acclaimed or of questionable quality films from the Manila Film Festival. And that begs the question, like, who is there really anyone at fault for that? For people who for people wanting to watch something that they want, which is Spider-Man, and although they clashed at the same time, which is a big problem, but you can't really argue that COVID was the issue at one point anymore, because well, now COVID is way worse, but we're still making that sacrifice for Spider-Man. Why didn't we do it for the Manila Film Festival?
Well, that's probably a matter of, well, people's interests. Then again, I'm one to talk. I haven't been to a cinema in years, even before the pandemic.
It's really how like people, I guess, like how people perceive or think about like Philippine films and stuff. Even though
Yeah,
like if they didn't watch it, they're like, oh, it's just another basic freaking Filipino film. Oh, what else is there to
I
it?
mean,
That kind
Filipino
of
films
mindset
have their
probably.
audience.
Not all of them are like terrible. They're like really good ones.
People have their audience.
Yeah, even in the current Manila Film Festival itself, there were still a bunch of films that people could still agree were good films despite the turnouts.
I think what to point out, it's a matter of audience as well and genre. Because while I don't want to be super general, what are the films that usually people like? At least from people I talk to, they always bring up rom-coms and stuff when it comes to Filipino films. And well, basically there's also a matter of genre preference and audience here as well, because well, when we bring up Spider-Man, the reason why there's such a big difference is because that name alone, Spider-Man, is such a influential brand and such an influential icon for people all over the world. Well, I know, just one idea I want to think of here is how maybe it's not just a matter of the films we have. I think it's a matter of, well, on the other side, it's Spider-Man. If it was your typical like Oscar bait movie from Hollywood, I think that there wouldn't have been as much of a like gap.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, interestingly enough, and Kyla, you actually brought this up to me before we actually started the video. The top 10 films in the Philippines, like 8 of them aren't even Filipino made, right? And you sent me the article.
Oh, the article. The article that my one of my art professor like sent in his Facebook post.
And within that post, there were only 2 films that even reached the top 10 of the Philippine box office. Those being Hello, Love, Goodbye, which is the highest grossing film ever at 3rd place, which is amazing, 880 million pesos. And The House of Us, which is at 810 million, which is the 2nd, and is at 5th place overall. The rest being Disney products such as Frozen 2, Beauty and the Beast, Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War. Those last two being the top two in the entire list here in the Philippines. In the Philippines, we love Marvel, that can't be denied. But we also love, well, the Philippines itself, right? We we want to love what's made here. Like, that's undeniable. I really do like this country despite all of its faults. And in all of the film festivals prior to this, there was always an audience for the Manila Film Festival. They always made that effort to watch films in the Manila Film Festival. And yes, you can say that there would be less people because of the pandemic, but to this degree is astronomical, and you can contribute to many different things more than just the pandemic. It's a matter of what people are willing to sacrifice over one over the other. And why are they willing to do that? Is it a matter of quality? Well, that's more on the subjective side, because there are people who love films even though they know what to expect, rom-com like you mentioned earlier, or because even though you know what to expect, or you know that the quality itself is questionable, but you still enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
don't think it's a matter that our films are bad necessarily. I mean, we have good films. People have, as you mentioned, there were a lot of good films that turned out of the film festival as well. We have talented actors. We've had amazing films come out. A lot of them.
Another like a comment that I saw like through like the Manila Film Festival like Facebook page was like someone was like talking about channel of like distributing the films was kind of old and stuff since like people have moved on to streaming sites. So like the person's argument was like if it was like available on streaming sites, maybe more people would watch it. And
So yeah, that's another thing. Of course, this will not be cheap for our studios. This is a thing. But imagine if a lot of these shows ended up on, say, Netflix Philippines. A lot of these movies ended up on Netflix Philippines. Imagine how much.
Viva Max and iFlix, for those who don't know.
Yes, things like that. If they ended up there, imagine how much of a turnout they would get there. There would be a massive turnout, probably.
That's like one of my biggest gripes with how the festival kept on using the excuse na support local, please. And especially one of the biggest things that irked me was nearly close to the end of the film festival itself, the actors and directors, they made a call out to the Filipino people to, well, support the Manila Film Festival, to come to theaters and watch. But at the same time, it's again at the same time when Omicron started spreading more and more here in the Philippines, and to watch something in the cinema is a very big risk, and to promote your audience to do that, it really rubs me the wrong way. If you're going to really make these people make that effort, then if you really want to make that effort, why not try to make it better for those people rather than making them have to risk themselves to go there? For No Way Home, no offense, like they were willing to already make that sacrifice already, as you can see in the pictures from the Facebook I previously mentioned, for all the lines that are being made. They're willing to make that effort already. For the film festival, I'm sorry, but they weren't willing to make that effort for, let's face it, multiple economic problems here in the Philippines, because those films, even though people do enjoy them, even though people like them, there was an audience for all of these films for many years prior. The low turnouts only during this year's film festival, because they weren't willing to make that sacrifice anymore. They couldn't make that sacrifice anymore. They couldn't make that effort anymore. And you're making them do that, even though you know it, they are not willing to make that effort anymore. It's almost like using your influence in the wrong way. And like, as a support local motivation, it can only get you so far. the Filipino people themselves, the normal audience, we're being given so many safe options home for in streaming services. We're being given quality films from the west and outside of the country, that like the aforementioned Spider-Man. You have to show a way to not only compete with them, whether that means increasing the quality of your films, whether that means raising a streaming service, but you don't urge them to sacrifice themselves for you.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a valid point. Of course, this isn't condoning any reckless attempts to line up to watch things in cinemas during a surge. Looking at the people lining up for No Way Home anyway.
As like also I guess from coming from someone who is at least one day going to like work with people who in terms of like advertisement or some way, shape or form, the idea and like the creative process, like when you make something, of course you want people to be able to have access to it, but you can't always expect people to adjust to what you want to happen. I guess you could say it's in my personal opinion, it's also like the creator to make sure be able to give access to like information and stuff on what they want to give out. And if if they don't give an effort to do so, it won't be able to like reach all.
So I guess the main point that we're trying to show here in PsyPoints is that we have nothing against the Manila Film Festival, and it's a very good idea. The Philippines deserves to release any content they have out there. The
It probably
Philippines,
just needs to innovate.
Yeah.
yeah, the Philippines makes amazing films like Henry Luna, and that's just like the one that I really like the most. Like we have very beautiful films like Maynila sa Kuko ng Liwanag, Himala, Metro Manila, Marosa, and many, many more. There are so many films that have come out of the Manila Film Festival itself that are of high quality, amazing, and something that only a Filipino could have made. We want the Manila Film Festival to work. And even though there was hate for the Manila Film Festival this year, the Philippines, all of the Filipinos feel the same. They want good quality film, and the Manila Film Festival can create that. But it's a matter of empathy now. Think about the average Filipino movie goer. Can they really go about their day to make that effort for you? Are you making an effort that people are willing to make that effort for you? And after all that is said and done, if they can't, are you willing to adjust for them? In PsyPoints here, we promote empathy most of all. We promote empathy, we promote mental health, and since we were made during quarantine and COVID times, we promote physical health as well in mental health too. And if you want your audiences to be appreciative of you, to make efforts for you, you have to make the same efforts for them. It's more than just supporting local. It's about supporting each other. As long as you make something that people are happy with, and you're making efforts so that they can be happy, experience being happy, and be safe.
Well, yeah, if there's a message to give out, sure, that's our message. But I think this case was just really a special one because Spider-Man.
Timing is off. And it's a shame. We all here in PsyPoints also want to watch Spider-Man. I have sadly seen spoilers already online, and I really hate that. I know that could have been avoided, but for the Manila Film Festival, you can understand why it's there. And I want it to be there. I want it to grow. I want Filipino media to grow. And if you're gonna compete with, you can't compete with the spider.
Yeah, we have no hate
How could you feel this?
We have no hate against Manila Film Festival. We know you can improve. Yeah.
Just, you can make it safer for everybody involved. And yeah, don't take this the wrong way, anybody. who watches this, just know that we want you all to be safe when you all go watch films. And be safe, be careful, and choose your battles. Yes. Like, don't fall into that trap. You just have to watch something just because psychologically speaking, in terms of interest, people only stay interested in something for so long unless it's something that they're willing to fight for, unless it's something that they are making the effort to consistently go to. Same way, Filipino Film Festival, if it's not working, if the product you're giving out isn't working, you have to adjust that. That's all from my end.
Yeah. I think that's all from me as well.
I see. Well, with that, that's pretty much the end of all of our thoughts here in PsyPoints. But what do all of you think in the audience? Please leave any of the comments you guys have about your thoughts on the matter as well, your
Yes.
opinions on the discussion as well.
Whether it
It's
like
a
contradict with us or not. And
Yeah, and
all your thoughts count. Yes.
yeah, well, I didn't really have much thoughts to give. I'm really more neutral on this compared to
It's
Yeah, and that's
it's
perfectly
others.
fine. You
okay.
get
I'm also kind of neutral with this and as well. Like everyone has their own like tastes and preferences and like what they want to watch. In a way, you can watch whatever you want. Just never force people to watch stuff.
Yeah. So, from all of us here at PsyPoints, be safe. Please comment anything else you'd want for us to react to or discuss next. And even more so, what are your opinions yourselves? What do you guys think about everything we said here? Do you think this series is even good in the first place? How do you think we can do better? We always want to hear what you have to say. We always want to hear how we can improve. Thank you all for watching, and well, we all hope you have a great day ahead.
Yeah.
Be
Have a great day, everyone.
stay safe, y'all. Ooh.